Well, hello everyone out there in the football world. The NFL season is back, which means we're back, baby. We're the Head Couch Analysts coming at you. My name is Jacob Sanders, if you haven't heard of the show before, and my co-host is Andrew Ondel Sports AZ Pardue. How you doing, man?
You know what, man? I'm doing pretty good. It's been a while since we recorded an episode, and since then I started my new job. I'm sure I talked about that since then. It's going really well. And then on top of that, the Cardinals are 1-0 for the first time in 5 years and won their first game in September for the first time in 3 years. So as a Cardinal fan, I can't complain.
Yeah, you must be pretty happy. Today at school was we had a virtual Spirit Week, so we still participated in Spirit Week. Today was Arizona Pride, so I wore my Cardinals jersey to school today. It's
nice.
kind of funny how that works.
Who's on the jersey?
Patrick Peterson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's fine, I guess.
Yeah, number 21. So, for those who don't know, I'm a big Ravens fan, so I'm happy that for the fourth year in a row, we won Week 1 in an absolute stomp. I remember all those games. I remember the first one 4 years ago was a stomp against the Bills. It was like 51-10. Flacco threw like 4 touchdowns. It was hype. The year before that, it was a stomp against Cincinnati. They scored 0 points, and we scored 28. It was a shutout. And then last year, it was against the Dolphins, 51-10. Fantastic.
Yeah, that was insane.
Or maybe it was 59-10. I don't even remember. It was just ridiculous.
It was something ridiculous.
I just remember Lamar threw 5 touchdowns. He came to the press conference, and he's like, not bad for a running back. And then that started that whole thing. And then this year, 38-6, another stomp. So I'm pretty happy about it. I don't think it was Baltimore's flashiest performance at all, but I think that's what makes it kind of scary, right? Especially for the Ravens and the Chiefs, right? Both teams won in relatively non-flashy ways, but both their games were stomps, and that doesn't sound like fun to play against.
Right.
So anyways, I'm getting used to the fact as a Ravens fan that my team is actually a perennial super house. It was always we were the perennial underdogs that went like 9-7, 10-6, and got to the Super Bowl through the wild card, and now it doesn't seem like that. So it's kind of weird. I'm trying.
I wish I could have at least been that.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be a dick about it, right? I'm still trying to be humble about it because the fans who get spoiled by being an AFC super house, I despise those kind of fans. I think you should always recognize that your time to get beat is coming, as I so humbly found out in January against the 9-7 Titans. And I was watching Monday's game, and I thought, wow, we really fucking lost to this shit. Holy hell. Anyway. Yeah, so regardless, there's always a time to be humbled, and I try not to be a dick about it. So, yeah, at least life is going good. We're returning to somewhat normalcy with our jobs and whatnot. My kids come back, because I'm a teacher, they come back in 3 weeks. We'll see how that works out.
Really?
Yeah. October.
At my district, kids are starting to go back to school this week. They're doing split schedule right now, so we've had students back this week.
I know you guys are doing modified instructions, like half in-person, half online. I do full in-person, and I lied. It's 4 weeks from now. Exactly 4 weeks from now.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Yeah.
4 weeks from yesterday, technically, so... Anyways, we're not here to talk about our lives. We're here to talk about some football. So we're going to talk about a few takeaways from Week 1. Pardue had said he wanted to talk about every single game for this one because he felt like it was relevant for every single team to be talked about after Week 1. I kind of agree with that sentiment. So we'll talk about a few takeaways from each one. In future episodes, we might be a little more specific, but it's probably good to toss a bone to every single team this time around. And then we'll talk about some of our opinions in a little bit of a segment, and then we'll talk about what we think is going to happen next week, and that's pretty much going to be the episode. So shouldn't for an hour to an hour and 20 minutes of your time. And if you're listening, thanks for listening. So let's get right to it. First game was kind of boring, I think. It was the Texans and the Chiefs. I don't really have much to take away from this game other than the Chiefs won in a non-flashy way, like I said before. And that's kind of scary. On a day where Patrick Mahomes only averaged like 6.6 yards per pass, they won 40-20.
Yeah, first thing I just want to preface, I'm not going to build a church on anything we saw Week 1. We got to remember that none of these teams had a legitimate NFL offseason. They had a very condensed training camp with really harsh protocols. So everything we saw week one, let's take it with a bit of a grain of salt. Yes, we can kind of understand and know which teams are going to be more competitive than others, but in terms of like play calling and so on and so forth and specifics of the game of football, let's kind of wait a couple weeks before we really know what these teams are. Now, going off of that, like you said, the Chiefs were very, very, like, it wasn't like a flashy win. Like, Patrick Mahomes had a 211 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Like, that's a pretty good game for, most average, middling quarterbacks in the NFL. And then you look at that kind of stat line for Patrick Mahomes, you're like, whoa, did he play terrible? So, he wasn't bad. He was 24 of 32, 211 yards, 3 touchdowns, no mistakes. My big takeaway from this game, being the Cardinal fan, I just want to preface this with the Texans wide receivers had 13 total catches in that game. DeAndre Hopkins had 14 total catches in this game. And it really, really, really looked like that the Texans were missing that number one X wide receiver, especially on third down. And I think that's what really cost them in this game. David Johnson did have a very good game, so I'm cheering for him on the side because I'm still a fan. But through week one, that trade does not look good. So that's kind of my takeaways from that game. But Texans could use that X.
Yeah, Texans definitely look like they need like an X target. Maybe not even a number one receiver. If you could have like a third down tight end blanket, or maybe one of the receivers could pop up, something that's reliable. Right, because I wouldn't even consider Edelman a number one receiver, but he was always like the reliable target to go to,
right,
for Tom Brady at the time. So, and I'm sure for Cam Newton in the future, and we'll get to Cam Newton in a second. I got a couple things I want to say about that one. So yeah, Texans look like a team who need to figure themselves out. They're going through a new identity. Bill O'Brien noticeably ran more forward wide receiver sets. Interestingly enough. So they're going through a new offensive identity. I want to give them some time before I really rate them. So, and they had a tough start going against the Chiefs, and they got to go against Baltimore next week. They could be in a big hole soon enough, but we'll get to that when we get to our predictions. Next one, Eagles, Washington. You know what? I think I'm going to save most of my takeaways for my Hail Mary segment, because I got a Hail Mary segment on the Redskins. On the Washington football team. I'm going to make that mistake a lot this year. I'm so used to saying it, dude.
I'm still getting used to it, too.
One of my coworkers, he's the head coach of varsity basketball at Hamilton. He's a massive Washington fan. He has Washington gear up everywhere. And, he's always saying the Washington football team, but sometimes we mix it up. So, sorry if I ever get that. I will always try and correct myself. I think my biggest takeaway here is what happened to the Eagles? Like, I watched it, and I don't really understand how you go from dominating to not at all. I understand that Carson Wentz, took 8 sacks, and that's not a good thing. But, like, this line, how did it go from defending him well to not defending Carson Wentz at all? I think my biggest takeaway is the Eagles' offensive line needs to not be trash. I think that's it.
And I'm right on board with you there as well. But it is kind of hard, excuse me, when you're missing 3 starters and 2 of those guys being all pro guys. And to me, when I'm looking at it, this could be a rough season for the Eagles. And I mean, I'm not big on anybody in the NFC East. I think that division's just a shit show. It was last year. And it kind of goes to show that, the 1-0 Washington football team, the team that everybody kind of expected to win no more than, 3 or 4 games, is, the only team that won this weekend. It's kind of going to be a shit show. But that front 7 of the Washington football team is very, very, very good. Probably one of the top 5 front 7s in the National Football League, if you were to ask me. So they were able to get after Carson Wentz, and they weren't able to do anything on offense. And then they had some really big turnovers that turned the tide of the game, and they took advantage of those turnovers, and that was the difference in the game there.
Yeah, I would have to agree. There's more to say about each of these games, but we're obviously trying to cover each thing, and we'll talk more in depth about other teams as we go on with episodes throughout the season. But yeah, I think those are some main takeaways. I gotta say, last thing on Washington, I don't think Haskins looked impressive, but he managed the game, right? And I think that's all you got to do when your defense
Right.
is willing to take over, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, anyways, next one. Patriots, Dolphins. Hello, Cam Newton. Hello, old Cam Newton. Actually, the Patriots did not shy away from what made Cam Newton good in his heyday, and I'm really happy about that. I think the Panthers made a mistake in the last couple of years trying to convert Cam Newton into a pocket passer, and that's not what he is. I wrote my article back in April that we should abolish the term system QB and that you should always embrace what your quarterback's strengths are no matter what. And I'm really glad that Josh McDaniels said, all right, running is Cam Newton's strength. Now, of course, Cam Newton can throw, right? But if you make him a dual threat first, right, before throwing, that means the defense has to pay attention to his ability to run. And if they have to pay attention to his ability to run, that opens up the passing game. So I think if the Patriots continue to do that, it very well could be that Cam Newton comes back as comeback player of the year. I didn't have him as comeback player of the year at all, but after seeing how this offense was employed for one game, obviously, right? But if they continue this type of play calling and this type of offense, I can definitely see Newton thriving again and having a throwback year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, piggybacking off of that, obviously the number one storyline of this game was Cam Newton's resurgence. Personally, as a football personality, I've never been big on Cam Newton. I always thought he was kind of cocky, kind of a dick. And I'm okay with that to an extent. I feel like Cam Newton, especially when he was a bit younger, kind of took it over the top. So that kind of frustrated me. But he, right. But he did a lot of good things off the field, so I respected him as a guy. But to see him come out and play the way he did and get those 2 rushing touchdowns, he was only 15 of 19 for 155 passing yards. But, I mean, if you're coupling that with 2 rushing touchdowns, it's not that bad. And again, it's week 1, so I'm going to give him and Josh McDaniels a little bit more time to kind of mesh and get really going. One thing that they have going for them is that Cam Newton does have his mobility and his ability to rush back. And the number one nightmare for a defensive coordinator is knowing in the back of your mind that you cannot blitz a quarterback. If you can't blitz a quarterback, they're going to hurt you with their legs. Because if you do blitz them, they're probably going to get around it. And if you don't blitz them, they're either going to take off a run again because you were too lax in zone coverage, or they're going to just beat you with their arms. So, honestly, I wasn't super high on the Patriots heading into the season, especially with all the COVID opt-outs. But it looks like they might still...
Yeah, I agree. The other side to this, okay, this is where we come back to earth. It was the Ryan Fitzpatrick-led Dolphins. So let's keep that in mind. I do like
11 points, and there's people already calling for Tua. We'll see how long it takes for them to finally switch it over.
I agree. So, like I said, keep in mind this was the Ryan Fitzpatrick-led Dolphins. So come back down to earth on that one. So, yeah, I think we'll see what happens, right?
Right.
Alrighty. Going on next to Packers-Vikings. Okay, look, this is my only takeaway. This game was a stomp. The score says 43-34. The stats favor Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. I promise you, Kirk Cousins did not perform as well as his stats say, and Adam Thielen was not as dominant as his stats say. That was all garbage time points that my fantasy team really enjoyed because I have Adam Thielen, so I was super excited about that. But nobody on the Vikings offense had a good day. Nobody on the Vikings defense had a good day, and Aaron Rodgers tore them up. And this Packers defense clamped down early on. I think they loosened up a bit because they had the game in hand, and the Vikings took advantage of that. But the game was mostly over. The Packers outclassed Minnesota. It was not close. It kind of reminded me of the ESPN Monday night game from last year, back in, I think week 16 was the Monday night game. It was around Christmas. And during that Christmas game, the Vikings just completely tore up. Not the Vikings didn't tear them up. The Packers completely tore up the Vikings back then. So, that's my takeaway from that. I'm going to keep talking a little bit because we are having some connection issues on the side of Pardue. I think another takeaway I want to say from this is specifically on Aaron Rodgers. The Packers drafted Jordan Love. And in drafting Jordan Love, I think that gave Aaron Rodgers some personal, like, fire, right? Because, you know, I don't think Aaron Rodgers took too kindly to the idea that he was replaced. I don't think anyone would take too
Put it into perspective. Kirk Cousins threw four...
Pardue, hold on a second.
What's that?
Just letting the audience know, and the internet had cut out, so I kept talking and talking and talking. So it kept recording on my end, but not on your end. So I'm going to finish what I was saying to the audience, and then I'll let you go. Okay. I fixed it. No worries.
Gotcha.
But what I was finishing to say is, you know, the fact that the Packers drafted Jordan Love, I think gave Aaron Rodgers sort of a revenge kind of mode, and unfortunately, the first team that had to be taken out was the Vikings. So, anyways, what's your take, Pardue?
So, like as I was saying, my number one takeaway of this game is Aaron Rodgers. He went 32 of 44 for 364 yards, 4 touchdown passes, and Devontae Adams absolutely went off, and I had to face him in fantasy, and he was absolutely miserable. Anyway, the big thing here for me, especially in the first half, was time of possession. The Packers kept the ball away from the Vikings the entire game, and that's what allowed them to run away with it. Put in perspective, I don't remember the exact time of possession numbers, but Kirk Cousins threw 4 passes in the first half. He was 2 for 4 with a pick. If that is your quarterback stat line at the end of the first half, more likely than not, that score is probably pretty lopsided, and that's exactly what it was. The Vikings put up 24 points in the fourth quarter and still lost, so there's your storyline. They got smoked.
I would also like to say that on the Head Couch Analyst show, we are massive Kirk Cousins defenders here, both and I. But man, Kirk Cousins did not look worth that extension this game, and that's like nothing against him. You're allowed to have a bad game, but damn, like a Week 1 matchup doesn't always matter. A divisional Week 1 matchup matters. This absolutely mattered, right? And it was at home. And I understand you don't have fans, but that's such a disadvantage for when you probably have fans in Lambeau Field later on, and you're 0-1 against them already. Do you want to be 0-2 against them trying to fight for the division? No. So. And
piggybacking off of that, I think the Vikings are going to be a good team. I'm not ready to write them off after one really bad Week 1 game, especially with how the offseason went. So let's just give them some more time. Again, I'm not building a church on anything I've really seen this week.
No, I totally agree, right? So speaking of building a church, there was one team I built a church on way too early. I think a lot of people were doing the same thing. And I also said it in my shameless plug, Sanders Sports Blog Analysis picks. Every year I've got a team that I pick to go 0-16. Now, 0-16 is very rare, so obviously it's not going to happen, meaning they're going to win a couple upset games, right? But my 0-16 team this year was the Jaguars. I think that was everyone's team. Because unlike the Dolphins, last year the Dolphins did sell the farm, but the Dolphins also clearly had a goal in mind. And they had a brand new head coach, right? Whereas the Jaguars have had a head coach that has debatable leadership at times. We're selling the farm, and at times, no offense to, I think it's Khan. Shad Khan is his name, the owner, I believe. Questionable ownership. I do like Shad Khan, but I think he doesn't have loyalty to Jacksonville, especially with the whole London thing all the time, when 2 of your home games are not actual home games. And it's cool that you want to make a home in London. I think that's fine, right? That's super cool, but it's at the cost of your actual home team, right? Or your actual home games. So going in, I was like, you know what? This is my 0-16 team for this year. They're obviously going to win 2 to 3 games because Gardner Minshew will pop off. What I did not understand is that the Colts, a roster that looked pretty good even without a starting caliber quarterback, were going to lose to purely Gardner Minshew and a solid defensive performance by the rookies of this team. I think my takeaway is 2 things from this game. One, Gardner Minshew is going to be way better than I thought. I already was pretty high on Gardner Minshew, and I even said in the offseason, Gardner Minshew is going to be a starter in this league, just not for Jacksonville. If he keeps playing this way, he will be a starter for Jacksonville. A starter for a team that's going to have a shit ton of draft picks, and if they have their quarterback, shit, that's all you need when you're rebuilding. If you have your quarterback, you can rebuild however you want. So if Gardner Minshew manages to play his way into saying, hey, you can't get rid of me, yeah, we might have like the number 4 or 5 pick, but you can't draft Trevor Lawrence because I'm better. If he can play his way into that, I'm scared about Jacksonville a couple years from now. But of course, they have to draft well and blah, 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 blah. The other takeaway is, holy fuck, what are the Colts doing? How do you lose? How? Yeah. This team is talent cupboard bare. I don't get it. It can't be just Minshew mania, can it? I don't know. You talk about this game. I'm done talking about this game.
So for me, obviously Minshew's the story. He went 19 of 20. He threw 1 incomplete pass to 3 touchdown passes. That's absolutely insane. He only had 173 yards, so for the most part you could say he managed the game, but he did his job, and he got them the win with a very terrible football team. So for me, because you're saying that Minshew is their identity and that maybe Minshew is their future. To me, I really don't know. Because this is the worst roster in football, and I believe they probably will have the number 1 overall pick, if not probably a top 3 pick in this draft. And you said the questionable ownership. Does Shaq Khan want to just move on and create a new identity with this young superstar guy like Trevor Lawrence? Does he want that to be the face, or does he want Minshew to be the face? Because, I mean, the Minshew mania is a thing. Everybody loves Gardner Minshew.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody defends Gardner Minshew.
No one dislikes him.
Mm-hmm. Everybody loves him. He's a great guy, and he's a funny guy. I would, like, if I didn't have Kyler, I'd love to have Gardner be the face of my franchise.
He's the classic redneck quarterback.
It's awesome, exactly. So it would be questionable to move on from him to a guy like Trevor Lawrence, especially if Gardner Minshew continues to play the way he is and he's proven. I say it's hard to move on, but I mean, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Would we put it past them? So I think the Jaguars have an interesting proposition in front of them. But in the grand scheme of just this week, the Colts put up 445 yards of offense and did not punt a single time, and they lost. That's my take. The Colts are not going to be a good football team. Sorry. I kind of... They'll be a decent team, but with Phillip Rivers, I don't know, man. I kind of thought that wasn't going to be a good match.
The only reason I disagree with that take is because, well, A, I don't believe in the Titans after watching Monday night. I don't believe in the Jaguars because of how bare they are, and those are both the teams that I want to know. The teams that are 0-1 in this division, I believe more in than the teams that are 1-0 right now. So that's A. B, are you going to pick the Colts or the Texans out of the 2 0-1 teams to do better? I'm picking the Colts because their head coach is probably slightly better. I think Bill O'Brien is fantastic in game, by the way. I think he's a fantastic in-game coach. His general managing is very questionable. But I really like Frank Reich, and I still really like this roster as a whole. This comes up to me as you didn't meet Week 1 expectations, and you got to work harder. I really do expect the Colts to still win this division when the season comes to an end.
All right, fair enough.
That's just me, though. Maybe people are jumping ship already. I still expect this team to win the division. So maybe week 8 I'll be like, bad take. But for now, that's where I'm still at. Speaking of bad takes, trying to pick the Lions to win a game. Holy shit. I picked the Lions to win this game against the Bears because it's Mitch Trubisky. And you blow a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter to, let me say it again, Mitch Trubisky. That's kind of the takeaway. Lions going to be Lions, and this is actually a trend with Matt Patricia Lions. I think they blew 6 fourth-quarter leads last year. One against the Chiefs, by the way. It's not like this team can't compete. They can't. They just can't seem to close a game. I don't know what it is either. I don't know if it's Matt Patricia I don't know if he changes his defense in the fourth quarter because he thinks we have a lead. We got to do something differently. I have no idea what it is. But either way, first things first. Matt Patricia's defenses can't keep blowing these leads. If they do, he's gone by Thanksgiving. I think he's gone by Thanksgiving. After the Thanksgiving game. If they blow away the Thanksgiving game and they have like a bad losing record, he's gone after Thanksgiving. That would be my guess. Second thing, DeAndre Swift. Man, I feel for him. I really do, man. You had it there.
That sucks.
The worst part is Matt Stafford couldn't have thrown a better ball. It was literally just on Swift to catch it. And the worst part is when you look at Swift, it's not like he was even like trying to like catch and run or anything like that because he was in the end zone, right? He just simply dropped the ball. And that feels
tough.
bad. That feels bad. So, yeah. But hey, the Mitch Trubisky Bears made a comeback. Hey, we got Mitch Trubisky for at least one more week.
So for me, the takeaway of this game is obviously the blown lead. And now, just in case we forgot, the same time last year, week 1, the Lions led 24-7 over the Cardinals with about, I believe, 5.5 minutes, 6.5 minutes, something like that, left to go in the fourth quarter. And it ended up finishing with a 27-27 tie. And now this year, they had a 23-6 fourth quarter lead, and ended up blowing the lead and losing. I'm sorry, what was the final score? It was 27-23.
Yep.
That's rough to blow leads like that week 1 of the season. Like I understand that these are professionals, but to do that in week 1, especially after the way this offseason has gone, that has got to be such a moral blow to this roster and this locker room and to this coaching staff that was already kind of on the hot seat. That's a rough way to start your season. And then going off of that, Trubisky, yeah, whatever. I will give Trubisky some credit. Sometimes he can pull off some magic in the fourth quarter. So hats off to him to come in and kind of take over that position after they just used a fourth-round pick to go get Nick Foles. So hats off to Trubisky. I'll give him that. Next week, he'll probably look awful. So that's my takeaway.
Let's see if Trubisky can repeat some of his sophomore year. How about that? I'm just saying.
I'm not. I wouldn't take it to Vegas, but let's see.
I wouldn't take it to Vegas either. I wouldn't bet on Trubisky at all. But if he can repeat his sophomore year, you know what really sucks about him repeating his sophomore year is you as the front office have to decide what to do.
Right.
Do you look at it and say, well, 2 of the last 3 years, he's been really good with Matt Nagy. And you got to ask yourself, were his sophomore and senior year essentially the consistency that Trubisky brings, or was his junior year what Trubisky brings? You don't know, right? And the numbers lie in Trubisky's favor at that point. So that's an interesting thing to watch over the year if Trubisky has a renaissance year. Raiders-Panthers. Surprisingly, what I said in my blog picks was the most non-interesting game because it was a non-conference game and really didn't have any effect on the standings. In fact, it's a perfect week 1 game because if you lose this game, who cares? It doesn't affect you. It doesn't really affect your standings other than you have 1 loss, right? But it doesn't affect your NFC or AFC standings. It doesn't affect your division standings, and you can recover from 1 loss, right?
Right.
But what was fascinating about it was the Raiders were a top 10 offense, by the way. Sorry, top 11 offense, by the way. They were the number 11 offense, despite being like one of the worst teams last year. So they have a lot of offensive efficiency. Derek Carr actually quietly had a great year last year, and he only showed improvement.
And he had a really good game this week too.
This game, for all the bullshit that like John Gruden doesn't want Derek Carr because he brought in Mariota, this and that, whatever, he doesn't fit the offense. I think even if John Gruden and Derek Carr divorced, I think both would be successful outside because John Gruden's offense started picking up near the end last year, despite them not winning, obviously. But like offensively, and because John Gruden's an offensive coach, they've been working, and Derek Carr has been working, right? I wonder if if John Gruden finally figured out how to make his offense work with Derek Carr. Like, how does he adapt Carr's strengths into it? I really like. I'm not the biggest fan of Derek Carr, but I always like him when he performs well. It's just his bad games that make me really think he's not that great. I don't know. It's weird. Like, good quarterbacks are allowed to have bad games, but Derek Carr's bad games are bad. So you know, it's kind of be weird to see if the Raiders can continue this. On the other side of this, they beat the Panthers, who surprisingly scored 30 points and looked pretty competitive. I really like Teddy B under center. But this is kind of what I expect of the Matt Rule-led Panthers. Rookie head coach, new quarterback, no superstar outside of McCaffrey because you lost Kuechly. I think this Panthers team might be a team that fights hard. It might be hard to beat, but ultimately loses more than they win.
I would agree pretty much right there with you. I think with the way the Panthers, the division they're in, it's going to be a tough division this year for them to really be competitive in. I think individually in games they'll be competitive, but I don't think it'll really show up in wins. But in this game they played relatively well and they matched up. It was a bit of a shootout. So I'll give props to Teddy B and I'll give props to that Panthers team and their offense. Chris McCaffrey had a Chris McCaffrey game. I don't really have a lot of takeaways from this game because, I mean, like you said, it wasn't like it's super big in the standings. It's not going to really affect any what's the word I'm looking for? It's not going to affect any tiebreakers in the grand scheme. So both teams, in terms of the Raiders, I expect them to be a late playoff push. I don't think they're quite there, and Derek Carr isn't necessarily going to take them over the top. He's a very middling quarterback, but Josh Jacobs is a great running back, and again, I faced him in fantasy this week too, and that was really miserable, but other than that, that's really all I got on this game.
All right, cool. Next one. I got two sentences. One, Josh Allen might surprise me this year. I want to see more, but he might surprise me this year. Sentence 2, Adam Gase is going to ruin Sam Darnold's career. And that's all I got to say about this.
Yep. For me, in this game, first things first, Jets were probably the worst product on the field this week. That's all I really have to say about them. The
Browns might be up there with them.
Yeah, they're probably right there neck and neck. But with the Jets, let's just say I'm really looking forward to playing them in 2 weeks. And then the Bills, they played a very Bills game. They played good defense. Josh Allen had a very Josh Allen game. I'm not quite as high as everybody else seems to be on Josh Allen. I don't think he's special.
I don't think he's special either, but the fool keeps winning
I think he's
games.
good.
And I got to
No, you're right. You're right, but I don't think he's a very good football player, but he is not a very good quarterback. He's still wildly inaccurate, and I've always kind of been of the opinion that you can't teach and you can't fix accuracy. So Josh Allen's a great player, and he's going to win a lot of games in this league, but I think he kind of is what he is, and that's all I really got on the Bills.
The only reason I would disagree that you can't fix accuracy is only because we've seen quarterbacks who we've criticized with accuracy do better. Like, I remember when Kirk Cousins was really scattershot early on, and he's pretty decent now. Lamar's deep ball accuracy was horrid his rookie season, and he's pretty solid now. I think Josh Allen could fix that. But my issue with Josh Allen isn't, I mean, yeah, he has accuracy issues. Everybody knows that. Specifically deep ball accuracy issues. My real problem with Josh Allen is the boneheaded mistakes he makes. I guess kind of akin to Daniel Jones in that kind of way. Like, you watch Daniel Jones, and right as you're starting to think, man, Daniel Jones looks really good, he makes like a stupid ass throw or a stupid or he takes a sack that causes a fumble, and you're like, oh yeah, Daniel Jones. But Josh Allen does the same thing, and we've talked about it on this show before. But dude, the backwards pass in that Texans-Bills playoff game. Yeah. Shit like that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
boneheaded.
We'll see how he goes though, right? I'm not like the biggest person on Josh Allen either, but hey, maybe he surprises me this year. Then again, they were playing an Adam Gase-led team, and I don't like Adam Gase, so that's probably going to always be my take whenever the Jets lose. I don't like Adam Gase, and I like Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold puts on some good tape, but Sam Darnold also makes some really bad mistakes. And I don't think Adam Gase helps him. I don't think Adam Gase's coordinating helps him. And I really wish Jay Cutler and Peyton Manning had not had successful years under Adam Gase, because he's the only reason he has another coaching job after the Dolphins. Fuck! Anyway, moving on. Ravens, Browns. Lamar looks better, which is scary to say. That's kind of my takeaway. On a day where Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, really no one shined. And not even really Lamar shined. He just looked almost perfect.
Good.
And his passer rating says he was almost perfect. He was like, I think 1.2 points away from his third perfect passer rating game ever. He's also the first quarterback in NFL history to have a passer rating of 150 or more in his first 3 seasons. I understand this is the Browns, but dude, I not even as a Ravens fan, just as a football fan, watching Lamar's growth over the last 2 years has been amazing. It's like watching Patrick Mahomes' growth, right? Amazing. And these new quarterbacks excite me. It's like watching Wilson's growth, and I can't wait to watch Kyler's growth this year. I'm so excited. But yeah, Lamar was near perfect, and I think the Browns. My other takeaways, I'm not ready to admit I'm wrong on the Browns yet. I still think this is a 9-7 squad. This Browns roster is loaded with talent, and I know we keep saying that. We've been saying that for the last year and a half. But I truly believe in a Kevin Stefanski-led team. I think it's very unfortunate they had to play against a defense with Marlon Humphrey, Calais Campbell, Matt Judon, and all these other guys, like defensive stars, who you just don't match up against, right? And then you're playing against the Lamar Jackson offense with a banged up secondary. Like, I think you're just supposed to lose, right? The one counter to this is that I think they lost worse than I thought they would. I thought this would be like a 27-20 game, and this was a 38-6 game.
Yeah.
I partially blame Baker for this one too. He did not look as good as I expected him to.
So for me, I kind of saw this coming quite personally. Like you said, we can say the Browns have all this talent and Baker Mayfield's really going to be good, and they do have all this talent, and maybe, yeah, Baker is going to be good, but when's it finally going to add up to wins, dude?
I agree.
Because we've been waiting, and I know the first one wasn't his fault, but he threw a pick on his first drive. And then the following drive, they followed it up with a fake punt on 4th and 5. What? And they were in their own territory in the first quarter. No, you can't do that. You cannot do that against the Ravens. That, like, honestly, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get on my soapbox a little right here, because that I'm not even a Browns fan. I don't care about the Browns. That pissed me off so bad from a play calling perspective. And, like, if that's the kind of shit that this new coach is going to come out and do week 1 against arguably the most talented and best team in the NFL and the Ravens, you're going to go for it on a fake punt to try and have your punter pick up 5 yards on 4th in your own territory in the first quarter, and you think you're going to overcome that against the best team in the NFL, arguably? That's no.
I mean, when you put
the Browns will win 5. The Browns will win 5 or yeah, exactly. The Browns will win 5 or 6 games this year, and that's where I'm coming from after this game. I know I said I'm not going to build a church on what I saw this weekend, but I've been seeing that shit from the Browns for the past decade. So, boom.
Browns gonna Browns? Is that what you're saying?
The Browns are gonna Brown. Sorry.
I'm not ready to give up on them yet. Not yet. I want to see tomorrow's game.
I am excited for tomorrow's game.
When this comes out, it's technically tonight's game. Bengals and Browns. I really think the Browns are going to show me what are they made of, because that's 2 AFC North games in a row, right? And those are 2 games where you got to bring your A game. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you played the best team in the NFL right now, or one of the best teams, top 2, top 3. Okay. Now you're playing the Bengals. You better fucking win the game, or I might have to be in the corner of shame in being a Browns defender. Anyways, moving on. Seahawks Falcons. My takeaway. I know this is a slight hot take, but I kind of believed it last year. I truly believed that Russell Wilson was the MVP of last year, and he's only continuing that case. I didn't like anything the Seahawks did this offseason, and I really thought the Seahawks were going to suffer because of it. Nah, they just straight up scored 38 points against the Falcons. It's 38-25. Wasn't even close. Because Russell Wilson is just that good. So, the other side of it is the Falcons repeated what they did last year. Too often they got behind, and then finally when they started rolling and firing on all cylinders, it was too late. The Falcons team that shows up in, like, the second half of the third quarter and all of the fourth quarter needs to start showing up in the first quarter, or they're not going to win any games this year, and they're going to go 7-9, 6-10 like last year.
Mm-hmm. For me, this game, like kind of like you said, the number one story and takeaway out of this game is just Russell Wilson. He's just Russell Wilson. I watched his very first game of his career, and while he lost it, I knew he was going to be an absolute terror for many, many years after that, and it's been true. It's, like you said, it's magic. There's no one on that football team. Like, they got a couple offensive pieces. They got a couple decent running backs.
DK Metcalf's improvement. He did really well.
Yes.
2 days ago. I like DK. For all the shit I gave DK Metcalf going into his rookie season, he proved me wrong in his rookie season, and he looks better this year.
Mm-hmm. And I'll agree with you there. But I wouldn't say outside of Russell Wilson, they have another elite player on their roster.
No, but they have like
Jamal Adams. Sorry, I forgot about that.
I was thinking offense.
Okay, that's fair. But other than Jamal Adams and who they just traded for, and Russell Wilson, they don't have another elite player on that roster. The Falcons, on the other hand, that's a tough division. I'd say they probably finished third behind Tampa and the Saints, or should I say Tampa? Anyway, get it? Tom Brady, Tampa.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, the Falcons are kind of just a middling team. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson's been carrying that team for years now, and I always tell myself, I've stopped saying it to myself, I hope the Seahawks don't fall off this year because it's just not going to happen. They're going to be competitive as long as he's on that football team.
And as long as Pete Carroll's coaching it as well, because Pete Carroll seems to always know what to do with it. I will say there were a couple people who will disagree with you on the elite thing, and I'm only going to bring up the one name, Bruce Irvin, because everybody loves Bruce Irvin. The NFL players love
I wouldn't call him elite, though. I think he's a good player, but he's not elite.
My bad, not Bruce Irvin. Bobby Wagner. I meant to say Bobby Wagner.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot about Bobby Wagner as well. I will give it hats off to Jamal Adams. He absolutely balled in that game, and I am scared to face him.
You know, there's still a lot of talent that the Seahawks have. It's just not flashy like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's not LOB anymore.
It doesn't need to be when your quarterback's Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't need the best receiver in the world. You just need DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and that's serviceable.
And Tyler Lockett,
it's not like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are pushovers, right? They're solid receivers that Russell Wilson can work with. Chris Carson is a solid running back that you can work with, right? And they got Carlos Hyde. Like, they're fine. They're going to keep winning games because their head coach is Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson's their quarterback. So, and they play Sunday night. That'll be a fun one. Chargers and Bengals. Holy shit. I don't know why they took the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. I understand, you give it to Joe Mixon because Joe Mixon's a veteran. He's a really good running back, but you're supposed to you drafted Joe Mixon to be your franchise guy, right? Why don't you see if he has what it takes week one? Put the game in his hands, but instead you gave it to Mixon. Mixon fumbled. I guess it is what it is, but I would have preferred if the Bengals were a little more bold with their play calling and said, hey, Burrow, we drafted you, so go win us the game because that's what we drafted you to do.
Right.
They didn't do it. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right? For a Bengals team that we don't expect to do a ton, I'm only disappointed we just didn't see if Burrow had it. Obviously, he had it in college, but we need to see if he has it in the NFL, right? His touchdown sprint was awesome to watch.
Beautiful. That was really fun.
But I think this would have been the perfect shot for you to say, hey, Burrow, go win us a game. Like, go win your first NFL game because that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what we want you to do for the next 15 years. They didn't do that. It's okay. You know what? They're still figuring it out. But I think I'm disappointed in the play calling in that. Missed field goal kick aside, I think the Chargers, my bigger takeaway is that the Chargers are worse than I thought. I mean, they're a very talented team, but without Derwin James on the defense, they don't really have much of identity. And Tyrod Taylor's not going to cut it.
Yeah. So my takeaways for this game is Joe Burrow, buckle up, because there's going to be a lot of games like this year. And it's unfortunate because because as I've said on this podcast before, I'm a big LSU fan. I have been for a long time. I love Joe Burrow. I think he's a great guy. I thought his final college season was absolutely magical, and his story is incredible. And now he's back in his hometown and playing his first NFL game. I thought it's a great story. But I hate to say it, there's very few situations that could have been worse for him to be drafted into, and I'm not saying it from like a roster standpoint. I'm saying it from a franchise and organizational standpoint. We saw what happened with Carson Palmer. We saw what happened with Andy Dalton, and maybe those guys aren't quite the upper echelon. I mean, Carson Palmer was a Heisman winner, but maybe those guys aren't quite the upper echelon coming out of college that Joe Burrow is. But I mean, it could be rough for Joe Burrow, and I'm really hoping for his success because I love Joe Burrow, but especially this year, be prepared for a lot of games like this, and just you can't get frustrated by it. You just got to keep going out to win. Like you were saying, I wish they kind of put the ball in his hands to try and win that game. Because I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You're going to lose. I mean, that's the worst thing that could happen, and you're probably going to lose anyway because you're the Bengals. From the Chargers standpoint, yikes. And like you said, they got so much talent on that roster, and it's just like, where is it? You know, you only put up,
and I has no direction without an actual identity to the defense, and like no real quarterback. I don't want to blame Anthony Lynn because I really like what Anthony Lynn did 2 years ago, but that was also 2 years ago now, and I think it's going to be very telling whether Anthony Lynn keeps his job or not based upon how he does this year. Right? I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, even if they go 7-9. Because you're in a division with the Chiefs, right?
Right.
And you have to play for wild card against teams like the Ravens or Steelers and stuff like that, and that's not fun. So, yeah.
I think Anthony Lynn's a good coach too. It's kind of been unfortunate that team's been kind of banged up over the last couple of years with some of its best players, and when you lose your best players, man, it gets hard.
And your quarterback just had a random drop off, throwing a ton of interceptions. Last week, so.
and Tyrod Taylor's just not good. It'll be interesting to see if and when we see
Justin
Herbert this year.
Yeah.
So I don't think Herbert's all that special either. So
the only thing I feel really
the future might not be bright for the Chargers either.
The only thing I really feel really bad about for Burrow is it's not like he had the most productive day, right? Mm-hmm. If that's how you are against the Chargers. Bro, how is he going to play against the Ravens and the Steelers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, it could be rough.
Oh, no. Anyways, well, I guess we'll get to those games when we get to them in the future. Cardinals 49ers. So this is kind of and I told you so to some people because I predicted this one, but of course so did Pardue over here. He firmly believed they're going to win. I want to roll back on that for a second. This isn't I told you so, yes. But I'm going to provide some context to that. This was a very banged up 49ers roster, and they're still banged up because they just lost Richard Sherman for 3 weeks. The real 49ers team might not show up till week 6, week 7. And who knows if it's too late by then, right?
Especially in this division.
Yeah, but I just want to say that even though the Cardinals won, and I expected them to, if the 49ers come back to Arizona fully healthy, it depends on how Arizona plays in the next, several weeks, whether or not I pick Arizona to win again at home. And it's not that they can't win, right? It's just, I feel like this game was more of the Cardinals, like they were supposed to, took advantage of a banged up roster. And also the fact that maybe Jimmy G showed he's not as good as he's supposed to be. Because honestly, if he would have thrown that ball where Patrick Peterson got really lucky.
2 inches higher. Yeah.
Not even 2 inches higher, like half a second earlier. Patrick Peterson was not there. He was beat. He was 100%. I'm wearing the jersey of a guy who got beat, right?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it happens. Like they're all NFL players. Sometimes you get beat, but you got lucky.
Yeah, but Peterson got lucky that Jimmy G threw it a little too high, isn't it? Floated a little too long, and he threw it like half a second too late. If Jimmy G was a little bit quicker on that, it's a touchdown easily. Game's probably over.
Right.
So, and that's not to take away credit from Byron Murphy, who made the hometown hero play the following play. But I certainly believe the game was over if Jimmy G threw it better. But, of course, I am not a big Jimmy G person. So Cardinals took advantage of an injury-riddled 49ers, and they did what they were supposed to do. They got business done. And this Cardinals team showed they're going to be competitive this year against a still monstrous defensive line. I liked how Murray shifted around the pocket. I liked how he moved out, rushed for 91 yards. Kyler Murray's going to be scary this year. I really like where this team is headed.
So I'm not putting
you on a timer.
I can't talk.
You got 1 minute.
Okay. So I'm going to try not to suck the Cardinals' dick too hard here because, like I said, I'm not going to build a church on a whole lot of what I saw this week. Now, I do think the Cardinals are going to be really good this year, and I firmly believe they are going to be a wild card team. Sanders over here thinks they're winning the division.
Hey,
I'm not willing to go that far.
Spoilers.
Yeah, okay,
I do think
but
they will go
sorry.
5 this year. But anyways, go ahead.
Okay. So, for me, being a Cardinal fan, this is the biggest win that the Cardinals have had in 5 years. I got really emotional on Sunday because I haven't experienced a win like that in a long time. So it felt really good to beat an opponent like that. And yes, you could say, oh, well, the 49ers were banged up, this, that, and the other. Okay, but they're all professionals. You can use that excuse to an extent, but they're all professionals. Now, like, because this game came down to third down.
You got 15 seconds.
The Cardinals were 7 of 14 on third down. The 49ers were 2 of 11 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth. That was the game. Cardinals were really good. 49ers also played well. They match up really well against each other, so on and so forth. It's going to be a hell of a division fight, and the Cardinals can shock some people this year.
I really think so. I think the Cardinals are going to do well, too. So I put him on a timer because I know he was going to go on for another couple more minutes, just the way he was talking. But
yeah, I wanted to say a lot more because honestly, I'll make this quick. If we really think about it, this was the most influential and probably the biggest win for any team this week because it was against a divisional opponent that was just in the Super Bowl, and then now you're seeing it. The Cardinals went from like 80 since last March, since the DeAndre Hopkins trade. The Cardinals went from 80-1 odds to win the Super Bowl to 28-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. The hype in the Cardinals clubhouse is going it's skyrocketing quite a bit. I'm not going that far. I'm trying to keep myself grounded, but
it's a good idea to keep
it is what it is.
Grounded. By the way,
right.
I would argue that maybe the bigger win was probably the next one we're going to talk about, which was the Saints and the Bucks. Compared to the 49ers Cardinals, which I don't consider the Cardinals Super Bowl contenders, despite the fact, yes, I have them winning their division. Thank you very much for that. I was going to let that go for a couple episodes, but here we are. I do have the Cardinals winning their division at 11-5, but I'll get more on that later on as we go, because I have the feeling the Cardinals are going to start 2-0, 3-0, and then I'm going to start on my whole rant on why I think they'll finish 11-5. Regardless, the Saints are Super Bowl contenders. I think I don't like picking Super Bowl picks before week 1. I think it's stupid because you're basing it off of last year, right?
Right.
Like, if you look at all the picks everyone did, it was shit like Ravens, Buccaneers, Saints, Chiefs, Saints, Ravens, or even dumb shit like Patriots, God, what was it? I think Patriots, Packers, or something like that. That's all based on success of last year. Right? You have, the Buccaneers pick is a trend pick because of Tom Brady, but you have no real idea if the Saints are going to continue their dominance. You have no idea if Lamar Jackson is going to continue that dominance or if Lamar Jackson gets hurt. You have no idea if the Chiefs, I could go on, right? So I hate pre-Super Bowl picks, but even then, I feel like the Saints are a strong contender to be considered for the Super Bowl because of how stacked their roster is and how much they have bought into this year, especially because it is. I think the consensus among everyone is that it's Drew Brees' last year, right? Like, he was supposed to retire last year. He even acted like he was going to retire last year. Going into the Pro Bowl, he said, hey, it's my last round pick. Can I start the Pro Bowl kind of thing? And it turns out a month later, he's like, let's take it back one more round, which great for Saints
Right.
fans, super exciting for the NFL in general because we get one more year of Drew Brees, and I love that, right? And so they bought in. They're like, all right, all in on the roster, spend as much money as possible. Who gives a fuck about next year's salary cap? We'll deal with it later.
Right.
And you have to beat the Buccaneers who got Tom Brady, right? You have to. It's a requirement. If you don't, you're not starting off what's supposed to be your Super Bowl year correctly. And I think beating the Buccaneers handedly is probably the most important game. But that's just my opinion, though. Saints took care of business. I think the Buccaneers acted exactly like how you and I thought they would. I had this roster going 9-7 when they first announced Tom Brady was picked. I hated the pick, actually. I don't hate the pick anymore. I actually think it's kind of a nice fit. But I still have them going 9-7. Why? It's not actually because Tom Brady performed poorly. I think he performed poorly because he's a timing quarterback and a rhythm quarterback. And you had no offseason to get timing or rhythm down. I think kind of like what I said in my blogs pick, Buccaneers are going to have a rough 3 to 4 weeks on offense, and then they're going to finally kick it into high gear because that's when rhythm and timing will develop. But in the meantime, the Saints took care of business against a defense that cannot keep up, right? The Saints are a more complete team. The Buccaneers are going to win through their offense. And that's what happened this game. The Saints were a more complete team, and they should. Sorry, I took longer than I should have.
You're good. My kind of synopsis on this game is pretty quick anyway. For me, I kind of expected a clunker out of the Bucks. First things first, I don't think that defense is good, really, at all. And all of their offensive or their off-season acquisitions were made with offense and Tom Brady in mind. And I think that kind of hurt them is because they kind of just threw the defense off to the side because they think their offense is going to be good enough. But you got to keep in mind, Tom Brady is 42 years old? Yes, he is Tom Brady. Yes, he is the greatest quarterback of all time. And yes, he's the New England Patriot. But now he's a Buck. And is this going to be, the time where he finally falls off the cliff?
I hope not,
we're gonna
honestly.
See.
I would hate to see it, but it probably is going to happen at some point.
Right, and because I have this team ceiling at 9-7, but honestly, I could see them not making the playoffs. I think Tom Brady kind of had a rude awakening to the NFC his first week in it, and when Bruce Arians, I don't know if you heard the comments that Bruce Arians made, but Bruce Arians criticized Tom Brady pretty hard post game, and that's
Bruce Arians, right?
You're right, that is Bruce Arians, but Tom Brady's never had that.
Tom Brady's never had that publicly. He's probably had it privately, knowing Bill Belichick.
That's fair, and exactly, and that's kind of where I'm going with it. He hasn't had it publicly, but now you are going to be with a coach like that. How are you going to react to that? It is Tom Brady. He's a very competitive guy.
Yeah, I think for someone like Tom Brady, you take it in stride and you keep going and improving, right? I'm not worried about the Bucs yet. They start 0-3, call me worried. Start 1-2, still not worried. Okay, even if they're 1-2, I'm still not worried. They're 0-3, I'm worried.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, that's kind of my gist on this game. The Saints are really good. They executed their game plan. They did what they needed to do to win, and the Bucs looked like a team with Tom Brady that just started his first game on a different team. And welcome to the NFC, bud. Good luck.
Yeah. So speaking of welcome to the NFC, let's talk about two teams that are going to be contending for a wild card spot, or maybe even a division spot. The Rams and the Cowboys. I'm actually surprised how much I enjoyed this game. I was surprised at how much I liked the Dallas offense. Their execution was bad on fourth down. They couldn't get it. They couldn't get it done on fourth down, which was their downfall. But the other side of that is the Rams defense got it done on fourth down, and Jared Goff didn't look bad. I remember last year just being like, "Oh God, Jared Goff sucks," right? And I felt vindicated because he did suck last year, but he looked pretty good here, and I was kind of happy. In an odd way, I was glad to see a Rams team that this game was what it was supposed to be last year. Maybe it didn't reach the highs of the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but this is what it was supposed to be. A team that plays good defense and enough offensive efficiency with a quarterback who may not be top 5, top 8, but enough to play in the top 16 to 10 area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get your quarterback to play in the top 16 to 10 area, you can win games through offensive scheming. You can win through defense. And I liked what I saw. Like, it kind of made me optimistic for the Rams. Now, I don't want to get too optimistic because it's one game. But I was kind of happy with the end result. The other thing, too, I should address it. I think they should have let them play on the PI call. I think that was kind of bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought that was a tacky call.
It was kind of a dumb call. That was a let them play call. It's like, don't call it an either of them, just let them play. But what the fuck ever.
For me, this game, I think both of these teams need more time before I can really say what they are or what I think they will be. Personally, this kind of just felt like more of the same for the Cowboys. You know, Dak and Zeke go out and play well. Their defense goes out and plays well, but it just doesn't end in a win. And to me, in my personal opinion, that comes down to coaching. Your coaches need to put these players in their best in the best opportunity, in the best situation to win. And it seems like for the most part that Dak and Zeke executed. So to me, I think it comes down to coaching. And like you've already know, I don't think I've really gotten into it a whole lot on this podcast, but I'm not a big fan of Mike McCarthy. We got to remember, in his last game prior to this, he was completely outcoached and outclassed by a Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen-led Cardinals team that came into their house at Lambeau Field when it was in the teens and got their ass kicked by them.
It was a November game. It was a cold November game.
Yes, correct. So it was actually, I think, it was either late November or December. Either way, it was a late season cold game.
After Thanksgiving, I remember it was after Black Friday.
So that's. I'm not a big fan of Mike McCarthy, and honestly, it kind of just felt like a side shift from Jason Garrett to me. So I really don't see a whole lot of improvement in the Cowboys' future. Now the Rams, I was kind of surprised to their success in this game. I mean, it's not like they blew the world up by any means. They only dropped 20 points, but their defense played really well, which is their bread and butter. Well, maybe not necessarily bread and butter, because Sean McVay is a very good offensive mind, but they have a very talented overall roster. You can't just overlook the Rams in the NFC West. This is why it's the best division in football. You could make a case that any team in the NFC West could win it, and I don't think you could do that in any other division. So that's my take on that.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Speaking of Jason Garrett, let's talk about a Jason Garrett-led offense that didn't do that well. For the Giants and Steelers, I got 3 takeaways. I'm going to be really quick, 30 seconds. Steelers defensive line, holy shit. Steelers defense as a whole, goddamn. Giants offense, lots of potential. But Daniel Jones made some key mistakes that he should have made. Also, holy shit, Jason Garrett, fix the run scheme, please, for the love of God. I know you were against the defensive line, but you made Saquon Barkley look worse. No, you didn't make him look worse. You made him look like a bad running back. How is that possible? It's not possible.
He looked awful.
And I don't think that's Saquon Barkley's fault. I think it was run scheme. Anyways, those are my takeaways. Steelers defense, holy shit. Oh, also, welcome back to the NFL, Big Ben. Welcome back.
Yes. For me, it's pretty quick on this one, too, and they pretty much almost fall in line exactly with you. Number one, that Steelers defense. Holy hell. Wow. Outside of a couple blown coverages in that game, that Steelers defense is, once again, no joke. Second takeaway, Daniel Jones. You know I don't like Daniel Jones, and I feel vindicated every time he turns the football over. But
I remember you texted me the exact words, Daniel Jones looks pretty decent. 5 minutes later, and there's the Daniel Jones I know when he threw the pick.
Yeah, so I gave my hat off to him. I even tweeted about it. I was like, okay, Daniel Jones, all right. You're looking kind of nifty. I see why they call you Danny Dimes. And then that boneheaded whatever the fuck that was on the goal line. I know me and you didn't quite agree on that being all his fault, but that little duck he threw that Cam Hayward picked off.
It was Bud Dupree. I'm pretty sure that hit him.
No. Bud Dupree hit him, but Cam Hayward picked it off.
Sorry. I was talking about the guy who tackled him. Yeah, it was Bud Dupree who tackled him, and Cam Hayward.
Yeah. So, and he turned the ball over a couple other times in the game, and that was the difference in the game because they were right in it until then. So, to me, the Giants, that division is just so ugly, man. I don't know who's going to win that division, but
isn't that the wonderful part of football, though? We get to find out in 15 weeks.
Right, right. And so it'll be interesting. But Daniel Jones, you got to find a way to take care of the football. That's my final take on it.
I like that. I like that. So, and by the way, Juju, take a bow. Pretty good bounce.
Oh
back.
Yeah.
Pretty good bounce back. Juju.
Oh yeah, big time.
Big time bounce back. Let's see if
you gotta love Juju. He's got a great personality. He's a really good guy. It was nice to see him play well. Same with Big Ben.
Yeah, it was kind of nice to see it. You know what? Even as a Ravens fan, it was kind of nice to see the Steelers return to prominence because that means the Ravens-Steelers game will have some juice to it, which it has not had in the last few years. So, alrighty, last one. Fuck, this was the ugliest game of the week one. Titans didn't play well and the Broncos didn't play well. I understand this game should have been 26-14 because 10 missed points by Gostkowski, but that's not the point. I don't think the Titans played well. I don't think the Broncos played all that well. I mean, there were some shining moments from Noah Fant and Drew Lock and even Melvin Gordon. There were some shining moments by Derrick Henry and even some of the Titans defense. But overall, this was a messy game that was not fun to watch. And I think both teams need to take away to the fact that there's a lot to work on. I think there was a lot of positives for both teams, but man, there was also a lot of ugly. I don't think the Titans are going to take away from this and say, "Hey, oh yeah, we won." No, I think they know they got a little lucky to win. And it boggles my mind that the Broncos at times were driving and then drives would just stall. Just flat out stall. It was so weird how on and off the Broncos offense was. So, but I think part of that is due to the fact that you didn't have Courtland Sutton or KJ Hamler, right? You only had Jerry Jeudy, and Jerry Jeudy, man, dude,
Ooh,
2 drop passes, both wide
those.
open. Both he was wide open. You can't drop those, man. Don't be the Nelson Aguilar, please.
And that's not something he's known for. So I'm just wondering if it was week one jitters. So I'll give him some time, but those were kind of shocking.
But the positive is that Jerry Jeudy looked good. The connection to Noah Fant looks good. I really like how Drew Lock looked overall. I'm pretty happy with him. We'll see how it continues. Titans, you got to be better off. You got to be better. You got to be better offensively and efficiently. I think you're lucky that Vic Fangio completely didn't know how to manage the clock at the end. Because if he did, I think you would have given Drew Lock a minute and a half. And who knows if he clutches it out? Who knows if the Broncos offense clutches it out or not? We don't know. But I trust McManus to win the game if they manage to get 30 yards. If Vic Fangio hadn't mismanaged the time, I trust Brandon McManus to win a game. So, yeah, ugly game. From both teams got a lot to work on. But you know what? Titans start 1-0, and that's the benefit, right? So, let's see. We're an hour in. Oh, yeah. About an hour and a half is what we're going to hit. That's all right. We went a little longer than we were supposed to on that. But that's okay. We'll get faster as we go. We're going to do a little new segment, and then we're going to get into our picks. Our new segment is going to be called Check Down, First Down, and Hail Mary. So basically, the theme of it is our check down it's kind of like a check down in football, right? It's a guaranteed play. You can't really screw it up, and it may or may not be a good take, right? But for the most part, everyone would agree you take a check down because it's what the defense is giving you, and you're good to go. First down completion means mostly everybody's going to agree with it. Maybe you might disagree with my opinion because you're a biased fan, or maybe you just don't flat out like what I say. But for the most part, everybody agrees when a first down completion is a first down completion, outside of when you got to put an index card to see whether it's a first down or not. I will always remember that moment. And then the third take will always be a Hail Mary take. And it's kind of what it says. A Hail Mary is a prayer, a shot in the dark in football, and that's what those kind of takes are. So don't take my Hail Marys for, gospel, it's going to be my shot in the dark. So my check down of the week. The AFC is still led by the Chiefs in Baltimore. The only reason I'm saying this is because they're only continuing what they did last year, and they're doing it fluidly. Chiefs look a little different in the sense that they were a little more run first, but that just makes them scarier. It used to be stop the pass attack and maybe hope they don't run the ball. Now it's stop the pass attack, they run the ball against you for 140 yards. Stop the running game and box it up, they're going to run right past you with Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman. I really don't know how you stop this Chiefs offense. Someone's going to figure it out, but I don't know how you do it. I don't have an answer. So, and same with the Ravens, right? You can box up the ball, you just stop the running game all you want, but then Lamar Jackson just throws for 3 touchdowns and 275 yards easily, seamlessly. Huh. Yeah. Good luck. So that's my check down. My first down, which is something I think most people would agree with, is I truly believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to have a fantastic year. I don't think he's looked that great the last 2 years, but I wondered how the Jordan Love thing was going to affect him, and he hasn't really said much on social media or in interviews. He has talked about how like it hurt a little bit, but he never like trash talked Jordan Love. He never trash talked the team. He's kind of kept his head down for a guy who's kind of been a dick sometimes to the media, which is probably the way to go. And then you just come out and throw 4 touchdowns against your divisional opponent. I see you, Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to have a great year. And who knows, maybe he's the surprise MVP pick this year. But who really knows? I think it's kind of a statement everyone should agree with, though. And maybe you'll disagree, but I think he's going to have a great year. My Hail Mary. Again, it's supposed to be a hot take and a shot in the dark. And this is totally a wild take, but I'm here for it. I think on defense alone, Washington is going to win 6 games alone, if not more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That defense, oh my God. You know how surprised,
I could see it.
Do you know how surprised I was? Because when I saw that they were going up 27-17, I was like, what happened? Did like Haskins like finally turn on and the Eagles defense is throwing? No, that's not what it was. I went and watched the game and footage, and I was like, oh, this was all the defense. This had nothing to do with the Washington offense. It had everything to do with their defense. And I was like, wow, this is a defense that you get scared of. And in a division that's not – in a division that doesn't have like a scary defense, right, all of a sudden, if the Washington football team maintains a solid defense against a division that's supposed to be offensive led, man, I think you got something there. So yeah, that's my hot take. Is they go at minimum 6-10 because their defense is going to win them 6 games.
I mean, I could definitely see it. Again, like I've said already multiple times in this podcast, I'm not building a church on anything I saw this week, and I'm definitely not going to on the Redskins. I do think their defense is very talented, but they also probably went up against the worst offensive line and most beat up offensive line in the league. So I'll pump the brakes a little bit on that one, but I could see it.
Hey, that's why it's a Hail Mary, dude.
Right.
4 weeks from now, we could be like, oh yeah, it's a Hail Mary that missed, because more often than not, Hail Marys don't work, right?
Yeah. So my check down, if we're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So my check down, I think after this first week, it's pretty plain to see that the NFC West is by far the best division in football. You only had one team lose, and it was to a divisional opponent, and it was a hard-fought game throughout. You're having the defending NFC championship in the division, the defending NFC champions in the division. The Rams look like they could potentially be poised for a comeback season. The Seahawks are led by Russell Wilson, and it looks like the Cardinals are emerging as a real dark horse candidate to make a potential playoff run this season. And again, like I stated earlier, you could make a case for anybody in this division to take and win this division. I don't think you can do that with any other division in the NFL. So, going on to the next one, is our, I'm sorry, what was it called?
First down completion.
First down completion, okay. So for this one, I think Cam Newton wins comeback player of the year. we still need some time to kind of see where that offense is going. They played against a pretty mediocre opponent in the Dolphins this week, but it was really nice again to see Cam Newton come out and play the way he did, and he by far led that team to that victory. I mean, also the defense helped out a lot too, but offensively he was the centerpiece, and I think that's going to be very key for them going forward. And now the Hail Mary. I've already said this to you this week, and you didn't seem to agree with me, but I guess that's why it's the Hail Mary.
Oh,
the Cardinals will finish as a top 3 rushing football team this year. And you say, oh, well, it's the air raid. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is the run raid. The Cardinals last year finished as the 10th ranked rushing offense and averaged over 5 yards per carry. And nobody wants to give the Cardinals offensive line that credit. Maybe reasonably so, but you obviously haven't been watching the games then. This team rushed for 180.
And I still doubt.
Okay, that's fine. That's why it's the Hail Mary.
Okay,
but
you're right.
That's why it's the Hail Mary. And so I could totally see it happening. They dropped 180 on one of the best defenses in football this weekend. And now, sure, you could say, oh, well, 90 of it was just Kyler Murray scrambling. Well, their running back still averaged over 4 yards per carry between the two of them as well. So this is a very good running football team, and they deserve from it. Sorry, I just dropped my phone. This is a good running football team, and they don't get the credit they deserve. And I do believe they will be a top 3 rushing football team in total yardage.
So I'm going to put a benefit towards you, because if someone wants to argue Kyler Murray rushing doesn't help, then Baltimore shattering the overall rushing record last year doesn't count, because Lamar Jackson was 1,200 yards, right? So, and I mean, they shattered it, right? Lamar Jackson shattered the quarterback record, and they just, I think it was by over 900 yards, they shattered the overall the NFL rush yards in a season for a total team. So, if people want to argue that doesn't count, then you should say that record doesn't count. So I'm with you that Kyler Murray could totally be a reason for it. I just don't see Kyler Murray running 60 to 80 plus yards a game. It's not the quarterback he is. He can be that, right? If he has to be. Right, and we saw that.
We saw it on Sunday.
Yeah, we saw it on Sunday. I just don't think that's always going to be the thing. And if it does become a thing where he runs 60 to 80 yards, I'm all for it. I'm a Ravens fan. I'm all for it. I've seen it work.
And it just adds another dynamic to this offense that could be really special this year.
And it also fits my narrative for Kyler Murray setting the league on fire this year. So I'm all for it if that's another evolution to his game. So I don't think they'll be top 3. I definitely like where you're headed. There's just a few teams that they'd have to beat out that are run first teams, and I just can't see them being more efficient than those teams, and I think that's why. But you know what? I'll let you have it. The whole point is that it's a Hail Mary, right?
I do have some evidence to back it up. So, I mean,
you do.
That's why it's a Hail Mary.
You really do. You have evidence. I can't deny you there. So let's talk about this week's games. I'm going to make my picks real short, mostly because we're A, running out of time. But B, I don't think there's a lot to say after 1 week.
Yeah, and especially after this year, we don't know much of anything about any of these teams.
Week 2, Week 3, this year is going to be very much shots in the dark. Yeah, sure, a team might be 2-0, but is it a cool 2-0 or a fake 2-0? You don't know, right? If the Titans go 2-0, they play the Jaguars. If they go 2-0, they won an ugly game against the Broncos and Jaguars. I'm not putting any stock in the Titans going 2-0, other than Mike Vrabel's their coach, right? Other than that, I'm not putting any stock if they go 2-0. So anyways, Bengals-Browns. It's kind of exciting. We get to see 2 number 1 picks play against each other. It's a division rivalry. It's in Cleveland. Obviously, no fans are going to be there. But, let's see what Joe Burrow does in primetime, and let's see what Baker Mayfield does in primetime. The Browns got to win this game, in my opinion. Otherwise, yikes. Another team falters to Sanders' bold picks. Except my truly bold pick is the Cardinals going 11-5. So that's working out so far. But it's only 1 game. I gotta pick the Browns here. I have to. I feel solely based on talent. I liked what the Bengals showed, but they only scored 13 points against the Chargers, right? At home. are you going to show much against your rival? I don't know. And it's still Joe Burrow's only second game in the NFL. Who knows what he does against, who knows if he gets mauled by Myles Garrett and company. Who really knows? So I think I got to pick the Browns here. Pardue, are you there?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I would definitely say it's probably going to be the Browns this game. I think coming off a really wacky offseason, I think a rookie quarterback in his very first Thursday night football game with a little amount of preparation, you got to give the edge to the Browns here. So for me, yeah, it's probably going to be a Browns victory. You got me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Sorry. I was kind of like processing what you said. No, I totally agree with you. Next one, Titans-Jaguars. Dude, I love Gardner Minshew, and like I said, I think Gardner Minshew is going to win 3 to 4 games this year. I'm just shocked they beat the Colts, right? And I was more shocked they beat the Colts because I expected the Colts to be better. Not because I'm surprised the Jaguars pulled off an upset. Jaguars can pull off an upset. That's fine. I expect 3 to 4 games from them. If the Jaguars continue... Let's just say they start 3-0, because even if they start 2-0, I'll still be a little hesitant. But if they start 3-0, that's when I'm going to be like, maybe Minshew Mania is just infecting a young Jaguars roster, right? But I don't believe. I also think Mike Vrabel's a better head coach than Doug Marrone. I don't think Minshew Mania is more powerful than Mike Vrabel's coaching, so I'll take the Titans.
Yeah, I'd agree. I was going to say I don't think these teams are too far off one another, and then I kind of took a step back and realized this Jags team just sold literally every piece that they had. I really like Minshew, and yeah, he did it against the Colts, but I'm also not high on the Colts, and I guess I'm not necessarily all that high on the Titans either. But I honestly feel like this will probably be a close game. It's a big divisional matchup, but I think I'd give the edge to the Titans just because they have better overall talent.
Yeah. All right, cool. Why don't you start the next two since I started them? Next one is Panthers-Bucks.
So Panthers-Bucks. So right now, this is actually a good one because the Panthers actually, I believe, played much better than I expected them to in Week 1 against a pretty decent opponent in the Raiders as well. And obviously the Buccaneers really faltered. And I kind of expected that, but the national media didn't really expect to see that coming. Now, my one thing with this game is how is Brady going to respond to his first game in the NFC? So personally, I do give this game the edge to the Buccaneers just because I think there's better coaching and more veteran leadership on that team. So I'll give it to the Patriots, but I believe it will be a closer game because, again, it's a divisional opponent. And I do believe the Panthers are better than what they are on paper overall. But I'll give the edge to the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I think the Buccaneers win this game. I just feel like the Panthers, they're a young team, young coach. We'll give them some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Broncos-Steelers.
Broncos-Steelers. So we saw how it was on Monday night. This Broncos team looked rough. Everybody was really, really hype on Drew Lock, and because I don't dislike Drew Lock, but I'm still kind of waiting to see, and I'm kind of starting to see why I wasn't hype on him. And now it's Week 1. It's been a weird offseason, so again, not going to build a church on it. But it is just a minor red flag that I'm gonna throw up real quick. So the Broncos kind of underwhelming, but I'll give them a minute before it's panic mode. But the Steelers, we saw how they were also on Monday night. That defense is no joke, but I do believe it can get got. We saw Daniel Jones move down the field multiple times and almost bring this team back against the Steelers. So it can get got, but I think that offense is just further ahead than the Broncos right now, and that defense is just insane. So I'm going to definitely give the edge to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. Look, I like this Broncos team. I think it's unfortunate that they're playing the Steelers week 2, though. Steelers defense, Mike Tomlin's a better coach than Vic Fangio. Ben Roethlisberger is a better quarterback than Drew Lock, as much as I like Drew Lock. Not foreseeing a really weird turn of events, I don't see how the Steelers lose at Heinz Field. Which, by the way, the advantage to Heinz Field isn't always the crowd. The advantage to Heinz Field is that it's always windy for kicking. And that could really affect McManus. I like McManus, but that could affect him. So I give the Steelers the advantage on this one, too. I'd go with the Steelers on this one. Rams-Eagles. Is it kind of weird that I just want to flat-out pick the Rams in this one? Mostly because... Yeah. Man, if you're getting sacked 8 times by the Washington football team, why not by Aaron Donald and company?
Yeah, Aaron Donald's going to wreck that offensive line. That was going to be the main point I brought up.
So, yeah, I think I go with... Maybe I'll change it for the picks that I write, but I doubt I will. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams here.
Yeah, see, for me, this one's a close one, because... I think the Eagles are a better team than what they showed on paper versus the Redskins this last weekend. But, man, that offensive line, they got to figure something out. And I know it's difficult because of all the injuries and everything, but, man, they looked really, really bad. And you can't put Carson Wentz in that kind of situation. And I'm not the guy who says, oh, Carson Wentz is injury-prone. Carson Wentz isn't going to make it to Week 8 if this keeps up. So... they got to fix that, but it sucks to say it. I do believe I give the Rams the edge here, just the way we saw the Eagles play. But it could easily go either way. This is probably the hardest pick so far, but I'll give the edge to the Rams.
Yeah, I'm with you there. 49ers Jets. Did you ever notice their logo is the same? Just one says Jets and the other says San Francisco, and it's red. I'm looking
I didn't notice that. No,
it's literally the same fucking logo. And I mean, San Francisco is more oval, and the Jets is a football shape. But anyway, dude, Jets are they're a squad led by Adam Gase versus a squad led by Kyle Shanahan. I don't need to say anymore. Give me the 49ers.
Yeah, I don't even really need. I don't need to say anything on this. This Jets team is awful. You could say it was maybe the Browns, but that was probably the worst football product that was put on the field over the weekend. The 49ers are still a very, very good football team with a very, very good defense, and Sam Darnold's going to be seeing ghosts this weekend. Give me the 49ers.
Man, that's actually going to be a thing. I kind of hate it. Yeah, Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Anyway, so yeah, I think we both agree San Francisco. So Bills and the Dolphins. Ryan Fitzpatrick was announced the starter, and I like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but also he can sometimes be turnover prone, and against a Bills defense.
Yeah.
I don't know, fam. It sounds like a Bills win to me.
Yeah, this Dolphins team, I don't want to say they're worse than last year, but I mean, they didn't really, they added some good players, but I mean, is it really better than it was last year? Like, honestly, I wouldn't say so.
I think if you had Tua playing, there's possible for it to be better, right? But they're not playing him, so.
Right, and he's still a rookie quarterback. How much better is he going to be? So, personally, I don't think this one's going to really be that close. I think the Bills go in, and then they'll be 2-0 by the end of the day.
I agree. Vikings-Colts, damn. So 2 teams that really, really whiffed week 1. I guess this is kind of a proving grounds matchup, actually, right? Do you start 0-2 and put your season way back on the 8 ball? Or do you put yourself at 1-1 and give yourself optimism going forward? This is probably... Looking at the rest of the matchups, this is the toughest one to pick. 100%, this is the toughest one to pick.
Really? You think so? I don't think so.
I'm looking at the rest of the matchups, and I think this is the toughest one to pick.
I think to me it was still the Rams and
even with the Rams and the Eagles, I still had a feeling for the Rams at least. For this one, I really don't know. Like, I could see a situation where the Vikings win because I think the Vikings are probably the better team. But if they put up the performance they put up against the Packers, the Colts theoretically should beat them. It's not like the Colts drop dead against the Jaguars, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting pick. I mean, you are at home for Indianapolis, but which doesn't matter too much. I guess you're playing inside in Lucas Oil Stadium. I think this is the one where I would just take a shot in the dark, and I'm gonna say the Vikings because despite the fact the Colts put out some great offensive production, and it seems like if you put out great offensive production against this defense, you're gonna win. I think a Vikings team that has a defensive-minded coach who had a bad defensive day, if they make a bounce back like they're supposed to, they should handle a Phillip Rivers-led offense. And if you do that, I think Kirk Cousins can beat this Colts defense, right? With Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen, etc.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, to me, this one isn't a very difficult pick to make. I like the Colts. I feel like they have a pretty decent roster, and I also really like their rookie running back, Jonathan Taylor. I thought he was probably the best overall running back in the draft. So I'm really hype on him, and now that Marlon Mack is hurt, he's only going to get more touches. But I don't like Phillip Rivers. I've been down on Phillip Rivers for a while now. To me, this is a Vikings win. This Colts team just lost to the Jaguars. Sorry. I got to go Vikings.
Yeah, well, I think we're both going Vikings there. Staying in the with NFC North teams, we the Lions and the Packers. Listen, the Lions always play the Packers tough. If anything, if time counted for anything, technically the Lions were 2-0 last year against the Packers. Because they led for 59 minutes and 59 seconds in both games. Right?
So unfortunate.
Well, technically they led all 60 minutes, right? Because the field goal went in after the clock ended. So technically the Lions led against the Packers for 120 minutes worth of game time. Unfortunately, they took 2 L's in leading 120 minutes worth of game time.
Can you believe that? Yeah.
Classic Lions blowing a lead. Also, to be fair, let's be totally fair. The Lions got fucked that Monday night, like week 4, from that really stupid holding call that wasn't actually a holding call, and then there was a hands to the face call that wasn't. What did his do? His fingertip touched Aaron Rodgers' helmet or some bullshit like that. Man, the Lions got screwed that Monday night by the refs. But win's a win. The Packers usually handle business against the Lions, even when the Lions keep it close. So I think I have to pick the Packers, especially on what seems like is going to be an Aaron Rodgers revenge tour this year.
Yeah, I'd agree. And my biggest thing is I just don't trust the Lions with the lead. I don't.
I think it's safe to say by the Matt Patricia Lions, you don't trust with the lead ever.
Yeah, and this team had like we mentioned a second ago, they had a lead for the entire game in both the games they played last year and lost. Packers easily. And honestly, I think it's relatively close throughout the majority of the game because I do believe the Lions are a decent team. I just don't think they're well coached, and their defense tends to blow a lot of games. But offensively, they're I wouldn't say they're one of the better offenses in the league, but they're definitely in the upper half. But I think the Packers pull away and win by multiple scores late.
I could see that. All right, what do you give me what you think of the Falcons and the Cowboys? That's an interesting one.
That is an interesting one. See, I really like the Falcons offense because, you got Matt Ryan, a former MVP, you got Julio Jones. Todd Gurley looked all right. So you got the weapons, and the Cowboys have proven they can get got on defense, especially last year they showed that, and now, it's a new year, so on and so forth. But you did just lose Leighton Vander Esch to a broken collarbone, so we probably won't be back until mid-season. Now, when I look at the Cowboys, this defense is missing Leighton Vander Esch, but you still got Dak and Zeke, and that wide receiver core overall is probably the best well-rounded in the league. To me, I feel like this will actually be a pretty close game. I feel like these teams match up decently well against one another. Honestly, this is a tough one. Who's playing at home?
Dallas
at home. I think, and yeah, you don't have the crowd, but just not having to travel. I think this one will be a really close one, so I'll just give Dallas the edge just for not having to travel.
I did want to tell you that they will have fans in Dallas.
That's right.
Jerry
That's
Jones.
right.
When
I forgot about that.
Bring in money? It's Jerry
Isn't
Jones.
it 100% capacity too?
No. It's 30%.
Okay. So then, I feel slightly more confident in my pick. I will take the Cowboys, but I could definitely see the Falcons winning that game still.
Alrighty. I'm picking Dallas here, only because I don't have confidence in the defense Dan Quinn is putting up in the last year and a half. Too often the Falcons have given up a lot of points early, and they show up later in the game only for it to be too late. The Cowboys are efficient on offense. They were last year. It didn't amount to a lot of points all the time. Actually, it did. I remember they actually had the highest point differential. That's how badly they won their 8 games. And that's how close their 8 losses were. So I take that back. They're actually very efficient. They scored a lot of points last year. It's just they just didn't win when it mattered. God,
and that comes down to coaching.
Last year's Cowboys team was just such a disappointment. But this year, they still displayed that offensive efficiency. Prescott still played well. Zeke still played well. Gallup looks cool. CeeDee Lamb looks nice. I don't think this Falcons defense can handle it. And I'm not saying the Cowboys are going to blow the storm off, but I think at home with some fans, they're going to be a little motivated to do something for their fans, right? Especially after COVID, it's a homecoming kind of thing. Yeah, I think the Cowboys bag this one.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one.
So Bears and Giants. Yeah, this one's kind of like I don't even know what to say.
The toilet bowl.
I guess so.
Maybe.
I don't know. Bears and Giants. Who shows up? Does fourth quarter Trubisky from Sunday show up, or does Daniel Jones without mistakes show up? We don't know. Does Saquon Barkley get going? I think I can't say talent-wise the Giants win this, because talent-wise on offense I think the Giants win, but talent-wise on defense the Bears win this. Man, I guess
it's a tough one too.
I guess this game really comes down to does the Giants defense win this game, or does the Bears offense win this game? I don't know. I think that's what you got to sit on. I don't know. Do you have anything to contribute?
To me, for this one, it's gonna you kind of hit on it. This game's gonna come down to which version of the starting quarterbacks are we gonna get? Are we gonna get the Daniel Jones who's dropping dimes the entire game and not turning the football over? Which, I mean, has that ever really happened?
I mean, he drops dimes every game, but he also turned it over.
Turns the football over, exactly. And I don't think that's something you can afford to do against a good defense like this. And now, Trubisky, are you going to get, like you said, are you going to get the fourth quarter Trubisky, or are you going to get the Trubutsky? That's just not good at all and just boring and miserable to watch.
You know what? We're doing this on a Wednesday, and I want to know if Allen Robinson is traded away before Saturday. That's what I want to know.
That's another thing to think about. Personally, I think it's still too early for that to happen. I think it'll be a few weeks from now if he does get traded. But also, just to think about it, you're on a 1-0 football team, man. It's week 1, and you're asking for a trade now? And didn't he also say he wanted to be a Bear for life last year? What's with the sudden change? That's something that's kind of intriguing me. And I talked to Ricky, who's a friend of ours. He's a Bears fan. It was kind of intriguing because he said he wanted to be a Bear for life last year, and really wasn't that long ago. And what's the sudden change? Did something happen in the front office? Does he not like the direction the quarterback situation's going? Did he like Nick Foles more? It's interesting to see, but I mean,
I'm not lying. If Allen Robinson was traded away Friday, I would 100% pick the Giants, but we don't know because it's Wednesday when we're recording this. this is a coin flip one, and I'm going to go. I'm a very defensive-minded person. I'm biased because my division is the AFC North. It's always been a defensive division, right? Even now with like Ben Roethlisberger doing well and Lamar Jackson doing well, right? Pop off offenses, the defenses are still what you talk about for the Ravens and the Steelers. So I'm going to be a bit biased and say I'm going to go with the better defense and pick the Bears. Ooh. Pardue? Ooh, looks like he had a small disconnection with us. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. So the next one we got is the Washington football team versus the Cardinals. I think I've already kind of spoiled for you guys how I think the Cardinals' direction is going to go. The Washington football team has a cool defense, and I like where they're going with this, but frankly, you're playing against the Cardinals, and you're playing in Glendale, Arizona, inside State Farm Stadium. I think the Cardinals are going to pull it off at home, even without fans being there. So I'm going to pick the Cardinals to go 2-0 here and beat the Washington football team. The next one is the Chargers and the Chiefs.
Hey, I'm here, by the way.
Okay, sorry, I was talking about the Cardinals and Washington football team. Do you want to give us your Giants-Bears pick real quickly? I ended up finishing.
Yeah, sorry,
I picked the Giants.
Yeah, I guess we had some technical difficulties there.
Gotcha.
But
I finished by saying I'm going to be biased and pick the Bears defense to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
So for me, sorry, Daniel Jones, and I'm trying not to be a hater here, but I'm going to be a hater. Because like I was saying, I think it comes down to which versions the quarterbacks show up. I feel, this is so weird for me to say too, because I'm a big Trubisky hater. I feel like it's more likely for a decent version of Trubisky to show up than for Daniel Jones not to turn the football over.
I kind of agree with that.
I'm going to give them the slight edge. This game can really go either way. And, I mean, we saw the Bears go down 23-6 versus the Lions. So, who knows? Maybe the Giants absolutely smoke the Bears. But I'm going to give a slight edge to the Bears. I believe it'll be a close game, but I'm going to give it to the Bears.
Yeah. And I already picked the Cardinals. So, I'm assuming the Cardinals fan over here is picking the Cardinals against the Washington football team.
Yeah. Now, a couple of weeks ago, when I saw this on the schedule, I was like, holy shit, we're winning this game by 30. I'm obviously not going that far anymore after what they showed us this week. I do think that defense is really serious. I do think that's a very good front seven, but I also think they're playing a much better offensive line. And people, if you actually paid attention to the Cardinals, you would agree with me. They're playing a much better offensive line this week, and you're playing against. Not to say that Carson Wentz isn't mobile and athletic, but he's far more a statue than Kyler Murray. And this offense, as we saw versus the 49ers, is built on getting the ball out very, very quickly. So I think that's going to play into the Cardinals' hand. And if they can get the run game going as well and maybe get a few more deep shots downfield, and they can repeat what the defense did against the 49ers this week against a mediocre, maybe less than mediocre Washington football team offense, I believe the Cardinals could blow them out, but I do see it being not necessarily a fairly close game. The score may be close, but I feel like the Cardinals win by multiple possessions in the end.
Yeah, all right, I like that. So Chiefs-Chargers. Chiefs, they're the Super Bowl winners. They look better than last year when they won the Super Bowl. Playing the Chargers. That's all I got to say.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go Chargers.
Writing that down.
I'm kidding.
I'm
going
L
Chiefs.
For Pardue.
I'm going Chiefs. Are you writing all these down by chance?
Yeah, I am actually.
Okay, cool. Because I wanted to revisit this next week.
I'm keeping track of our picks. Next one, which, by the way, I understand the Patriots and the Seahawks is the Sunday night football game, but when this schedule was made, we knew Tom Brady wasn't going to be a Patriot. Why the hell did they think Patriots-Seahawks was a good Sunday night matchup compared to the Ravens and the Texans? I don't get it. I feel like you'd want Lamar Jackson versus Deshaun Watson over Russell Wilson versus Jarrett Stidham. But whatever. Anyways, the next game is the Ravens and Texans. So last time the Ravens and Texans played each other, I actually predicted the Texans to win that game. and then the Ravens just blew them out 42-10, I think was the final score, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was something like that.
It was bad. It was really bad. And outside of like a missed call where Marlon Humphrey clearly did pass interference on, I think, Will Fuller, outside of that, the game was nowhere near close. And I don't think, even if they had gotten that call and the Texans scored a touchdown, I don't think that would have shifted any sort of momentum. Baltimore was just outclassing Houston. I expect more of the same, where the Ravens team got better over the offseason with their additions, and the Texans team got worse. I don't think it matters that it's at Energy Stadium. Yeah, I think the Ravens win this game pretty easily, honestly.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I just think the matchup is a little bit too much for him. I don't really have a whole lot to say on it. I would go Ravens.
And the other thing, too, is they're not going to have fans on this one. So, but they are going to have fans starting after this home game. So this is the only home game they're not going to have fans. That's kind of a shame, actually. Probably one of your most exciting home matchups, and you don't get to go to it. It's kind of a bummer for Texans fans, but I guess it is what it is.
Unfortunate.
It is the unfortunate year of 2020. So yeah, Texans. I think the Ravens win it. I think Harbaugh outclasses Bill O'Brien again, and I think they just get out schemed. Not much more to it. Okay, interesting matchup. Patriots Seahawks for Sunday Night Football. Like I said, my major complaint is that when this was made, it was Russell Wilson versus Jarrett Stidham at the time, with no real appeal to this game. Lamar versus Watson is a better one, but now that we're in the future, Newton versus Wilson is a nice ring to it, and it's a nice matchup. They were marketing it last Sunday as a rematch of the Super Bowl, and I'm like, those two teams are nothing near each other. They showed footage. I'm like, Malcolm Butler's not on the team, Gronkowski's not on the team, Tom Brady's not on the team, Richard Sherman's not on the team. Like, all these players they were showing, I'm like, none of these players are on the Seahawks or Patriots. What are you doing? Why are you marketing this as a Super Bowl rematch from 6 years ago? That is the wrong way to do it. What you should be doing, you should be marketing this as a comeback game for Cam Newton to the Sunday Night Spotlight, and Russell Wilson, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I know that's a hot take. I know it is. But Russell Wilson is just...
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a hot take. I feel like that's true.
I think most people would say Patrick Mahomes is better. Shockingly enough, the players agree with me, and they say Russell Wilson is better than Mahomes because they listed him as number 2 on the top 100, where Mahomes was number 4. I was shocked by that. I was shocked that the players agreed with me. I thought Mahomes would be number 1 on that list, and turns out that they had 2 quarterbacks higher than Mahomes. But I think Russell Wilson rightfully should be called the best quarterback in the NFL right now, with Mahomes number 2 and Lamar number 3, and Watson at 4. You could put Watson at 3 if you wanted to. I wouldn't be butthurt about it. But you market this as the best quarterback in the NFL right now versus the comeback quarterback, right? That's such an enticing matchup. And they're both mobile. They both can sling it. I think Russell Wilson slings it a little bit better. But then you think about the defenses. How does that work? How does Pete Carroll's mind work versus a Cam Newton offense? How is Belichick's mind going to work versus a Wilson offense? This is an exciting Sunday night matchup. And it looked like a terrible matchup 4 months ago when it was announced. So I'm excited for it. Ultimately, I'm going to pick the Seahawks. Why? Russell Wilson. Dude's playing out of his mind. I think it's wrong to pick against Russell Wilson, especially at home. You know, I'm not discrediting the Patriots either. I think Bill Belichick's going to create a unique game plan, and I think Cam Newton's going to be ready for the spotlight. I think he's going to be ready with a chip on his shoulder, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots stole this one away because Cam Newton wants to prove he belongs in the NFL. But, man, I can't ignore the fact that Wilson just casually helped drop 38 points on the Falcons last weekend, and that he could just do that again. Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, for me, I think I just give it to the Seahawks just because they have more of an edge and more of a chemistry. I think Cam Newton still needs a little bit more time to really get equipped to this offense, and Josh McDaniels, and I think that the relationship that Pete Carroll and the team he has with Russell Wilson, I just feel like that gives them more of an edge with the way this offseason went, and they are also at home. I'm right on board with you. I'd give it to the Seahawks here, which is really unfortunate because that means every single NFC West team is going to win this week.
That's what we got going, baby.
I hate this division. I hate this division so much.
Hey, man. You just got to win your divisional games. That's all you got to do, and you already won one.
Yeah.
You got 7 more to go.
We're 1-0, so hey.
All right, Monday Night Football, always a terrible matchup, and shocker, it's the Saints and the Raiders. It's kind of interesting in the sense this could be a shootout real quickly. But the Saints are the most complete team in the NFC. The Raiders are not a complete team in the AFC. I'm not even sure they're a top 6 team in the AFC. Or even top 8. Maybe top 8. Probably not top 8. Probably like 9 or 10. Either way, I feel like you're a fool if you don't pick New Orleans. What do you think?
Yeah, it's not even close. I think overall, when you really look at the Saints roster, they probably have the best, well-rounded roster in the league. And you're going against the Raiders, who I wouldn't even know which side of the football. I feel like they're pretty evenly balanced between which side of the football is better, but it's still notches and notches below the Saints. I feel like this one's a pretty easy pick. Sorry, Raiders, but with the way the Saints just handled the new Tom Brady-led Buccaneers, I feel like you're probably getting jack stomped in front of a national crowd.
And the only thing that's unfortunate for the Raiders is, well, this game is at home, but none of their home games matter this year because they are in Vegas, a international hotspot. Not for COVID, just an international hotspot in general. I don't think they want to attract any sort of crowds to Vegas at all.
Yeah.
So they're not having a single home game with fans this year, as of right now.
Yeah.
Not even if other teams do by November. Not even if every team is by November or December. Raiders will not at all, at least as of right now. So kind of unfortunate for them. But, yeah, I do think that the more balanced team wins. So I picked the Saints here. And that's it from us. We both got the Saints winning there. So, yeah, that's it from us. We promised an hour and a half episode. It was an hour and 45 minutes. Sorry. We went 15 minutes over. That's fine. I imagine we probably won't be talking as much about Week 2 next week because we've already kind of talked about Week 2. Obviously, we'll talk about the results and we'll have some takeaways. But we'll get more and more focused as we go on. Do you got anything else going on for the NFL? I got nothing.
As of right now, no, I don't think I do. I just want to say thank you to Bill O'Brien again for DeAndre Hopkins. I really appreciate it. And that's all.
Cool. So you can follow the show at Head Couch Analysts. You can hit the subscribe button, or you could just give this a like and share it with anybody else if you liked it. You can follow Andrew at Ondel Sports AZ or Ondel Sports 97 AZ. I forget.
It's something like that. I'm probably going to change it soon. It's a mouthful. It's a lot to remember.
I mean, if you were able to just do Ondel Sports AZ, I think that works just fine.
Yeah. So, maybe I'll just make it Head Couch Ondel.
Do that too. That would work. So, yeah, from Mr. Ondel Sports, Andrew Pardue over here, and me over here, Jacob Sanders. We are the Head Couch Analysts, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you for tuning in.